views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are the content creator's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Essex County College. The material and information presented here is for entertainment and informative purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice or a substitute for seeking professional guidance.
Hey y'all, it's me, the Loner, once again, and welcome back to another episode where I just ramble on some things every week, and you get to see my views get, the viewership, of course, is already down anyway, and the most popular show, of course, out of this week is still Stay in Your Lane, but I'm not going to complain about that. Anyways, of course, so today, of course, I was going to talk about music, of course, but I've also realized that today is World Autism Awareness Day, and one thing, of course, I want to discuss about this right now. I want to briefly discuss about this because this isn't about awareness, of course. It's like, I get the point. You are aware, of course, that you're autistic. You are aware that you're not neurodivergent. But this isn't even about Autism Awareness Day. This is about Autism Acceptance Day. That's just one thing, of course, I want to discuss. And the reason why, of course, you should accept that you have autism is not because you are aware that you are autistic. You should be aware, and you should, the one thing, of course, I'm going to discuss is this. Teachers, of course, will often call you that you're special because our classmen are so special. But what makes you special? That's one question, of course, you should be asking yourself. And if you don't really know the answer, then I actually don't really blame you at all. So if my answer goes like, then you know that I'm completely boring. Well, hey, of course, I've actually decided to reborrow one of the sound effects, but that's just one hand, of course, of the soundboard. So hopefully you like that part. Well, I digress anyway, but World Autism Acceptance Day. That's one thing, of course, I'm going to be calling it as from now on. One of the things, of course, I've been aware about autism as well is how nobody is supposed to be supporting autism speaks. Like, even me, of course, as a person, or even as an individual, of course, I don't really condone the color blue or, the product where you just decided, oh, let's shine it all blue, of course, and all that. Yes, you may be blue, but you're not lonely. And even then, of course, I feel like that's the purpose of the loner. The color itself, of course, reflects loneliness. And so that means if you're already autistic and you're already lonely like me, then no wonder why the color is blue. So instead, of course, I'm going to be wearing red, of course. So if you ever see me red on that day, that's the reason why. Not because, of course, I don't want to be lonely, of course, and I want to be desperate for attention. Like, that's one thing, of course, I need to discuss about as well. So if you're me, of course, if you're part of the fundamental of television production class on every Wednesdays, then I'll be making a pilot episode, more specifically on explicit content that I'm not able to talk about here on my show. And this is because, as I said, even though this is not generally a general audience show, I just want to keep it appropriate. So, you still got to make this show appropriate, of course, even though I may not be the same person who is more into sanitizing my own show. And that's just one thing, of course, I need to talk about as well. But if you look it up on Wikipedia, which is really a reliable source, it just says the following. World Autism Acceptance Day or Awareness Day is an internationally recognized day annually on the 2nd of April. So April 2nd, you're right now listening to Loner, of course, and this is a special episode about autism and why I think you're not special, of course, unless if you really have a purpose. And I'm not trying to say this, of course, as a mean way. Sure, of course, you can call all the students special, of course, but again, I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it even, of course, in the last minute of my show. If the teacher does call you special, what are you really special for? Like, what is your purpose? Of course, that's just one thing I just really want to know about that. But anyways, of course, so it just takes some measures to raise awareness of the autistic individuals throughout the world. And even that, of course, also sets World Autism Month. So, of course, this month is dedicated to autism, of course, and I'm actually one of them. So, I guess let's just talk about my history, of course, with Central High School once again, even though I already discussed that in my first episode and named The Realities of College. But maybe I just want to discuss this more because, to be honest, I've been having more fun, of course, here at Essex County College, more than what I was able to do with my high school. And supposedly high school is supposed to be like a fun time, like, High School Musical, but I just really don't believe in that shenanigans at all. or in that case, I just don't believe in that BS. And generally, of course, I'm going to be saying that because I'm not able to curse here, of course, in my show. But again, if you want me to do some explicit content, I'll be making a pilot episode, of course, if you're part of the Fundamentals of Television Production, where I get to go more in depth and uncensored. That's the reason why, of course. And so that's what I'm currently reading. No cursing or swearing. So unfortunately, I'm not able to do any of that. So that's why I have to substitute that as BS. But I think I already discussed that enough. And so, anyways. So the color blue, of course, it's supposed to associate with calmness and acceptance, and it's a primary color designed for autism. But as I said before, light up blue. But what are you really lighting up blue for anyway? Like, sure, you can just go ahead and wear a blue shirt, but what is really special, of course, for even wearing a blue shirt at all? Because some people, of course, decide that even the puzzle piece itself doesn't really reflect autism as well. And I will say this, just because you have a different capability, you have a different disability, I don't feel like, of course, I don't feel like the puzzle piece, of course, is really reflective of who the whole community of the whole autism. At this point, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I just don't think it reflects how, all the autism, the whole community represents. I just don't really see it as a way that it fully represents the community as well. So that's like if you already have a puzzle piece and then you have a whole community, of course, with a whole puzzle. And so that means you're lonely. That's just what I see it as. You're just one blue sign or that one blue puzzle piece, of course, that you're missing because apparently you work so differently. You're not able to communicate well with like all the general education students. Like, in fact, they'll call you weird as well. And if you're like double chin, then of course they're gonna ignore you as well. That's just the reason why I actually want to lose weight, not because I don't really want to reflect the same individuals, the same stereotypes. But then again, this doesn't mean, of course, I really should change my personality. But again, of course, in the autism community, we all have these weird obsessions, of course, that we love. And yet, of course, I'm the only one, of course, who feels a bit normal. But then again, I wouldn't call myself special. I just call myself normal because I'm a normal human being. If you're gonna be autistic, of course, then I feel like you shouldn't change your personality. You can be yourself, of course, if you want. But I feel like if you listen to the same words like over and over again to be yourself, then I feel like actually there is no feeling at all. You can be yourself, of course, all you want, but I feel like you really need to do more than just becoming yourself and identifying who you are. And, that's another thing, of course, I wanted to talk about. It's like I used to be I actually used to make a video course on YouTube. I once actually had a YouTube channel, of course, where I decided to make some like Beyond videos, some grounded videos, because I was mostly inspired by Go Animate and Beyond videos, of course, and so I decided to try my own attempt at making grounded videos. Well, nowadays, of course, I feel like those are just mediocre. So, Inahuazo Studios HD, I think it was called Inahuazo Studios. Still, I feel like those content, of course, doesn't really reflect who I am today. So that's the reason why I never mentioned that anymore, or I have never mentioned any of my YouTube channel. So if I ever decide to restart, then hopefully, of course, it'll be a better start than what I'm doing here. So maybe the pilot episode, of course, maybe my own redemption of who I'm going to represent. And this here, of course, at Essex County College is just the early beginning. Well, this is just this is probably going to be another early content, of course, that you're going to be seeing before the rise of Jon Inahuazo. Well, I said my name anyway, but it doesn't matter. I digress. So that's one thing, of course, I want to reflect. So let me get back into what I was going to say now. So remember this, of course. First episode, I already discussed about this, but I'm going to talk about it again. So back in 8th grade, well, actually, I'm not really going to give you a life story because then this episode is going to be completely irrelevant. But I guess, as I said before, let's just get started with high school. Because as I said before, Arts High School was my dream school. I wanted to go there because, as I said, I wanted to do television production. I wanted to do art. I wanted to do animations. Like, I was more like a creative person I was more into creativity. And with the power of AI, as I said, that's not really going to benefit me anything. And even, of course, I've talked to Richard. He's one of the students, of course, in the film club, of course, and I actually would like to thank him, of course, for giving me a chance, of course, to do something, of course, during at Military Park. And so, if you're listening to me, then thank you very much, of course, for it. And That's another thing because they told me, of course, on Discord they're gonna be. I have to upload them, of course, on Discord. But as you can see, I have to download this. Actually, I have to purchase Discord Nitro. So that's gonna be another thing that I have to waste my $10 that on, and then I've been dealing with some technical difficulties with Discord because it's been a while since I've actually used my own account. So in that case, of course, it's probably gonna take me a while, of course, to get all of that backwards to my regular account and then decide. Actually, there's not really a decision, of course. I really have to fix all of that, of course, and so hopefully I'm able to fix all the difficulties that I've been dealing with, so I can get back to normal, of course, and I don't really have to suffer or even. In that case, of course, I'm talking about organization. That's another thing, of course. Organization is what I really need. So the same thing, of course, also goes into my online accounts that I already provide, which is YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Discord, like Reddit, all those accounts. So as I said, of course, and so let me get back into what I'm saying because I'm still rambling. So I was in high school, of course, and so because Technology High School didn't allow me to go there because I wasn't able to fit in like in the special needs program. There wasn't really a program, of course, dedicated to that for autistic scores, even the neurodivergent, and so I had to go to Central High School. And there was like another school called American History High School where you get to do the same thing that you're going to be doing here, of course, at Essex. Just finding your own job, of course. I think it's called the CAP program here at Essex, but I don't really remember at all. Either way, you're still going to benefit the same thing, but you can do a lot more than what Newark Board of Education can do itself. Sure, of course, you may care about your mental health, but here at Essex, of course, hopefully, of course, they do care about our mental health, because if they do, then, well, actually, they do, actually. I'm not even going to bother saying anything, because they actually have a counselor, unlike my school, and I'm not, in specific, I'm talking about a mental health counselor, of course, and even they have UWIL as well. It's like, this school course and in this college can do a lot of things that I wasn't able to do at high school. It's bringing me satisfaction, of course, and it all goes back to the first question: whether I decide whether I really need to continue my life, of course, or resort to suicide and all that. But so far, of course, I've been meeting with friends. Well, I haven't met friends yet, but I've met a bunch of individuals, of course, who relate to me, and really in a nutshell, of course, it's like this. For Math 092, of course, I don't really have any friends here, of course, and that's mostly because I'm completely bored. I'm dozing out, of course, at some points, but, it's still one of the most complicated topics, of course, because I've never learned any math, of course, aside from basic math that, as I said, I wasn't really able to comprehend the whole subject, of course, behind math, even in elementary algebra, so that's the reason why I'm not going to be going to Intro to College Mathematics, because then I'm going to stress myself out, and then I have to do there's another project with just a pilot episode, and then I have to do a multi-model presentation for English class. But at least that's good news, because at least I can be more creative, of course, in a research paper. So that, of course, that's for another episode. Or not. So, of course, and then there's fundamentals of television production. It's like, I actually have a whole community there, of course, and I'd like to thank Kenny, of course, for his participation on Melanin Wars. It's basically Family Feud at Purdy, of course, that I'm still editing on, and as well as joining the film club, of course. They're a decent club as well, but, I already said it's time for me to leave, of course, once the summer semester starts, and that's when I'm not really going to have any new clubs to join because of this short semester. And then afterwards, I'm just going to be leaving for a while, which means so after 5 episodes, of course, I'll be gone for the next few months. So at the end of the show, of course, I'm going to be announcing when is season 2 going to come. If you really want a second season, of course. If you do want me to do a second season, then I'll announce you when that second season happen. So, anyways, of course, let me get back right now. So, Central High School was there. I wasn't really satisfied, of course, with what I've did back in the past. So, I've only used Brain Pop, of course, and then I've used CNN 10, and that only happened with one classroom, of course, until I moved into 11th grade. And that's when, of course, I said, then, of course, in 11th grade, I actually had the best time, of course, here. I actually made some new friends. I've made, it's one of the best years, of course, I ever had back in high school that I can't, that's just, now, of course, I don't remember the word I'm trying to say. Replicate. Now, of course, I remember. So it's one of the things it's one of those years where I'm not able to replicate, even if it's 2023, and now 2 years later, 2025. So I'm not really able to replicate any of that, of course, but still, my first semester at least has something beneficial. I'm still able to attend English classes, of course, or in that case, college composition one. So at least I've been more creative there. Even so, of course, it's morely equal, of course, to what I've already learned back in English 3 and 4 with Miss Kirkland, of course. And that's going to be the only teacher I'll be mentioning because she's been an influencer to me, of course, when it comes to writing. Because I became more creative into essays, of course. I've been more creative into my own research papers, of course, even my own senior thesis. That eventually, of course, it gave me more opportunities, of course, than this whole autism program that they had available. Most of the time, of course, it involves shopping, of course, for your budget. So I've started to learn how to budget some things, and I've actually learned how to do all this, learn how to shop, of course, even though I already go to Seattle most of the time, and then went to American Dream, we went to, like, and then I think there was an Elizabeth Dream, there was also another mall, of course, in Elizabeth, but I already forgot what the name was, but it was the most common place that we went to, aside from American Dream. Well, not aside from American Dream, but aside from ShopRite, near my school, which in that case specifically is in Central. So, of course, you can say I actually had a little fun. I briefly had my 15 minutes of fame, of course, when I started 12th grade, because afterwards, of course, I decided to transition from art to music, and that's just when XG24 was born. So, recently, of course, I've actually bought myself an MPC Key 37, and so, fortunately, that's been helping me, of course, learn how to sample. And now, of course, very soon, of course, my own film. I'm going to be learning how to make my own film and maybe just make my own visual poem about my own life, of course. And so, that way, of course, you get to see more of who I am, of course, and you get to see more like my creative, experimental side. And as I promised before, very soon you're going to be seeing an episode where I get to use a Sony CV10, and you'll see me live, of course, if I decide to use a lighting panel. So that, of course, hopefully that will be coming. Hopefully, of course, I'll be able to experiment that, of course, very soon. And thankfully, of course, we actually have a tripod, of course, in the background. But even though you can't really see it, there's a tripod there. There's like two LED lightning points in there, so like a 2-point lighting scene. And even though you're only going to be seeing like one angle, it's still fine as it is. But we're just gonna move on. So compared to high school and college, of course, I feel like college, of course, is more beneficial to me because at least I'm learning something out of something, of course, that I wasn't able to learn back in high school. In high school, I wasn't able to do any video production related stuff because I all went to arts high school, and even arts high school was highly praised in my own school. I just ended up with my own frustrations. So basically, I'm still frustrated and even betrayed, of course, that I actually haven't got a chance, of course, to be in that same school. That I would have been more creative either way, but it is what it is. Central High School is just a forgotten memory that I don't want to remember anymore. It's just time for me to move on, and it's time to go forward. So moving forward, of course, I won't be cursing anymore, of course, and this will be the only episode where you're going to be seeing where I actually would like to give you my disclaimer. So hopefully, of course, you actually understand that I had to say those words, but hopefully, of course, if he does questions me about the questionable content, then he can of course refer back to the context and refer to some history, of course, if you really want to learn more about what I'm talking about. So that's just one of my discussions here. So really, at the end of the day, being autistic, of course, to me is saying you don't have to be alone. Of course, it's like you're never alone. Of course, if you're creative, you're just never. And it's like I'm just never alone because I'm mostly creative, and the majority of the individuals, of course, are also creative as well. It's like they're into like art. And for me, of course, I feel like I'm more like a multimedia artist because I'm actually favoring video artists and then there's like guerrilla television, of course, and not guerrilla, of course, but a low budget, the format, of course, for you're mostly doing is like low budget filmmaking that I can turn cinematography, of course, but I'm not trying to use this more like the goal word to be I want to be cinematic because that's not really the point that I'm making. And even so, of course, cinematic is not the only thing I want to focus on, but to learn how to be more creative, of course, and experimental. That's where the art of cinematography comes from in the world of photography, which I will be attending this summer. So that way, of course, because of those semesters that I'm attending, it's actually giving me real world experience. So so nothing about the school, of course, even my college is misleading. But of everything they've learned back in high school, where was my satisfaction there? That's the reason why, of course, I don't really call myself special at all because I haven't even done anything. I've been creative, of course. I've represented the autism program, but what have I really done, of course, aside from doing art? what have I what have I done? Of course, even though I've made music, of course, and saying "lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day," and then of course just really played out on the keyboard. What am I really like? What am I really benefiting from that? Aside from practicing how to play music, which in that case I've been learning how to play the keyboard. And no, this is not really my attempt at singing. It's not bad singing. I'm just over exaggerating that. But if you understand, if you've already understood the context, then you know what I mean. And then afterwards, we just kept singing. Of course, that's one of the major hits, of course, that I've learned how to play over time. Aside from that, we also have "Can't Feel My Face" from the weekend, and you know, just the two of us. Just the two of us. That's another song that I learned. And previously, I've already talked about how Music Club, of course, is just really a reference, of course, of what I've already done back in 12th grade. And I'm able to do that again, of course, if I decide to join that, of course, over the fall semester. So hopefully, of course, I'll be able to join that. And I'll be proud, of course, to continue with my keyboard experience, especially with my potential to sample. Even though, of course, next time, of course, I'll be learning how to, well, next time, of course, I'll be learning the concerns, of course, towards copyright infringement, of course, and some issues, of course, around sampling, of course, and clearing, all that, like all the clearance issues, of course, got to be dealt with, of course, before I start releasing my own content. But that's just one of the main reasons, of course, why I haven't really. That's just one of the main reasons why, mostly due to copyright, of course, and some clearing issues. But that's not really an excuse, of course, for me to go on and just give you random sound effects and give you some stock music. In fact, I probably would have expected more. But anyways. Hopefully, of course, hopefully in the second season I'll be able to give you an actual soundboard, unlike only one sound effect. That's just the only. And like I said, this is probably going to be one of the only episodes where I did use a soundboard. In that case, you already heard the cricket sound effects. Anyways, I think I've already said enough, and so it's already like 104. So next time, of course, I'm going to be talking about how weird the whole community is. Maybe that's another thing. Of course, like one more thing before I leave. I understand how weird, of course, all the community can be. It's like I can understand how weird they are. That because of the explicit content, of course, I'll be able to talk more about that in my pilot episode, which means there's going to be a separate show outside of the Loner where I get to do a review, of course, and maybe just really give you guys another commentary show. But it's not going to be just an ordinary commentary show, but it's going to be reviews and then commentaries and my own reflections. Not just like story times, of course, and all the basic format that you're currently hearing, but I already digress. You've already got there's no idea, of course, that I'm doing all of that, of course, but this is going to be this will only be the start of my own journey, of course, my own reconsideration, my own revalidation, of course, not reality. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but my own redemption. I already discussed my redemption. I already talked about my own redemption. I'm talking about my own redemption. I'm just repeating myself. But I think even with redemption, of course, and reviving my older persona, I can really repurpose, of course, who I used to be, and return, of course, to who I'm supposed to represent. And that's why I just don't really represent the weird sides of autism, and that's another thing. I don't really use autism, of course, as an excuse, of course, to use all that stereotypes. I don't even fake my own autism. Just because I don't really act autistic doesn't mean that I'm not autistic. I am still autistic either way, but every individual, of course, will act differently. So all the symptoms, of course, that you're looking at will depend on the individual. So don't really assume that just don't really assume one or another. I feel like, of course, communication is still key, but if not just only communication, but a bit of understanding and knowledge. So with all those things, of course, then you'll be able to understand why I'm talking about those things all the time. So that's one thing, of course. So never use autism, of course, over your. Just because you do something bad, of course, and just because you did something wrong, just don't go ahead and use your own autism to benefit and really just manipulate, of course, and gaslight your own family members. That's one thing, of course, I'm going to talk about, of course. And if you are really immature, of course, then you really need help as well. Like, you really need to consider help if you're if you're really immature at your own age. It's like, that's the reason why I've stopped watching Nickelodeon, of course. And I actually already talked about that on Mediocrity TV because I've already set the schedule is already falling off. Paramount, of course, isn't any better. And with only 2.5 Men and only Friends. And what's really the point of cable TV? Again, what's really the point of all that? So I ask you once again, if you are really special, then what is your purpose, of course? Like, why are you special? Why are you special, of course, aside from being autistic? Do you really have a purpose, of course, aside from being an artist? Can you really do something, of course, that any other individual cannot do? But can you at least benefit yourself that you're not smart? Don't really underestimate this and say that you're completely smart. You may not know everything, of course, and that's another thing. Don't go on, of course, and say to me, oh, just communicate, just socialize, as if you're just saying this, of course, without doing anything. So actions, of course, are more, but you're willing to prioritize actions, of course, more than words. And so if you understand that I prefer actions more than words, then you know, of course, I really need to do something, not just do it by word, and then make this whole episode look awkward. That's just one thing, of course. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about here. So as an autistic individual, I'd like to acknowledge to all the neurodivergent, of course, to have a blessed day, of course, and happy Autism Acceptance Day from me, well, not in the Inahuazo Studies, of course, but from the new company, of course. I will be mentioning as of now, Ghost City Productions, of course, or Ghost City Incorporated by Jon Inahuazo. Now that my series is done, let me announce to you, of course, one more thing. So, in case, of course, I do leave you guys with the first season, in case I'm done with the first season of The Loner, then and then in case I do a second season, of course, then the second season of The Loner will start on October 1st, 2026. No, not 2026, but on October 1st, 2025, at the same time here, of course, at Essex County College's YouTube channel, which in that case would be SLAOESSEX YouTube channel. So make sure, of course, if you want a second season, then don't miss that, of course, on October 1st. Right after, of course, I decided to finish off the first season, of course, on June. So a week before the semester ends, that's when the series finale will happen. So because a new semester will happen does not mean that I'm going to be doing the second season yet, because there's only going to be like 5 more episodes, of course, left, and then afterwards, it's like, what's really the point of doing the second season if there's like only 5 episodes? That's the reason why, of course, I want to wait until October, of course, to start filming, or in that case, to start giving you a second season. So as I said, second season, new topics, new artwork. Just remember, of course, every season, of course, I will be giving you guys some new artwork, of course, and so hopefully you're still liking the first season's artwork, because I've done that myself. And now, prepare yourself in October, because the artwork that you're about to see right now is about to change. And even though, of course, I'm probably gonna be like the only artist or the only individual, of course, part of the podcast club, of course, to really change artworks. Although you may see the same artwork, of course, and some promotional materials. But aside from that, I think I already said enough. And so, thank you once again for listening to me, of course. And once again, I'm Jon Inahuazo. I'm the Loner, of course. And I'd like to thank all you guys, of course, for listening to me once again for episode number 6. This will only be called Autism because I have no idea what I'm going to be calling it as. And I'm out of time anyway. So hope you guys enjoyed this Alfred show. I'll catch you guys next week with another episode with this week's original topic, music. And you're going to be seeing why, of course, I think, and inspired by the audio archive, I'm also going to be mentioning about some record rip-offs, and so how one artist, of course, is going to mimic another artist, and why I would prefer the original recording than a cover. So prepare yourselves for the differences between the original recording, the original song, versus the cover. And some synthesized orchestras that doesn't sound like an orchestra. You're going to notice the difference next week. But until then, next time, this is me, Jon Inahuazo, once again. Have a pleasant good day, have a pleasant good night, and I'll catch you guys next week here on The Loner.
This has been a production of the Essex County College Podcast Club. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.